Rabbi's here. Hi. Hi, good show. Anyway, this was a tallis, and it came in any color you could show us. It came in any color you wanted as long as it was black and white. And then as it faded, it got this particular shade of yellow. Remember that? 100% wool lasts a lifetime and beyond. Then we fell into the polyester age. You know, polyester means many esters. And it would always slide off your shoulders. But the worst thing happened when I was bar mitzvah. Does anybody remember shark skin?
Yes.
Okay, it did not come from a real shark, but what happened was my parents took me to Howard Clothes on Delancey Street, and I'm walking along with my father, and I'm not holding his hand because I'm a big kid, you know, I'm 12. And they had a puller inner. Does anybody remember puller inners? The puller inner's job was say, Kim taheri, yingerman, Kim taheri. That means come here, young man. So he suckered me into the store. My father's looking around, you don't know. Then he sees I'm in there. So they had shark skin in blue and in gray. So I got blue for the bar mitzvah. But the thing was, between the polyester tallis and the shark skin suit, it kept slipping off. Okay? But apparently, the mob was very fond of shark skin. And so I looked like a miniature chubby mafiosi. But then what happens is they put me on the box. Any other men ever stood on the box so that the tailor can measure you? Remember tailors? Remember when all the tailors were Jewish or Italian? Okay? I went to this Italian tailor. It was in New Hampshire. He was a chain smoker. It was really pretty awful. But anyway, so this is a Jewish tailor. And my mother says, do you think you could pull it in a little bit back here? And he slaps me on the tush. He says, he needs it here, which was such a character builder, I cannot tell you. There's a lot of mandelbread went into building that particular body part. And then they asked the mystery question, do you want this to go to the Shotness laboratory? And I'm thinking, what is that? I got this mental picture of a laboratory with retorts and smoke and white smoke and black smoke and, you know, Bunsen burners going and little Hasidic scientists running around. What happens is they send it to some place, probably in Brooklyn, and Shotness is a mixture of, anybody know, extra credit question, will be on the final? Wool and linen. Now, why is it forbidden? If you wear Shotness, I feel sorry for you, because wool, of course, wool comes from where?
A lamb.
A lamb or a sheep. And linen comes from where? Flax, very good. It was Sam Flax. He used to have not a paint store. Was it a paint store? Okay. If you wear wool and linen together, it's the same as eating treif. You believe this? That's why you gotta love the Torah, because they throw in these little zingers from time to time. And the only one who was allowed to wear wool and linen was anybody know? The Kohen Gadol, the high priest. So you can't go mimicking the high priest. So instead, they send it out to the Shotness laboratory, and I get it back like 2 weeks later. And it's got this label that says, this garment has been diligently inspected and found not to contain any Shotness. But the label by itself is not sufficient. It has a heavy black thread at the end of which is a plumba, you know, a metal tag. And when you close your jacket, if you're able to close your jacket, most Jews don't, you feel this metal thing pressing into your flesh, and you know it's very hard to be a Jew. So that's the thing with Shotness. Well, that has absolutely nothing to do with this week's Torah portion. This is not a bad Torah portion, I gotta say. Remember the cluster of grapes? Anybody seen the cluster of grapes on the side of a truck or a car? Okay, I can see I'm talking to the right people. The cluster of grapes, this is actually the symbol of the Misrad HaTayarut. That is the tourist agency, okay? Because these guys you will see are the first tourists. Who are these guys, you ask? I will tell you. God says to Moses, choose 12 spies, one from each tribe, each one a prince of his tribe. They call it a chieftain in the conservative translation, but I like a prince. Because after all, what are Jewish men?
Princes.
If not princes. Yes. Then they get put in their place, first by their mother, then their fiance. Okay. So he chooses one, and they give the names. They have such cool names. Gadiel ben Vofsi. How come nobody names their kid Gadiel anymore? Eliasaph ben Deuel. I would love to do a naming, and this Eliasaph ben Deuel, I welcome you into the Jewish people. Not even in Israel do they have names like this, because the Israelis love nicknames. So if you're Chaim, you're Chaike, and if you're Yosef, you're Yossi, and so on and so forth. 12 spies to the land of Canaan, and he gives them very specific instructions. What stage are we as a people in our development? Meh. What is that?
Baby.
That was a baby.
Baby?
Okay. We are shepherds. Shepherds are probably the lowest on the scale of civilization. Now, I did say, and I will repeat, if you never want to mow your lawn again, just buy a couple of goats, because they will eat that lawn down to the roots. I don't know how goats adapt to St. Augustine's grass. I don't know how St. Augustine would adapt to his own grass. My dog hates it. He really does. He goes, ow, 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 ow. Okay. So
Did the goat
they
better?
go. I'm sorry, what?
Did the goat better?
Oh, okay. All right. It was a sheep.
I'm sorry. Sheep.
Goats go bah. Sheep go meh. Okay. I've been watching the
Oh,
zoo.
McDonald's.
Does anybody watch the zoo? It's on Animal Planet. You should watch the zoo.
Yes.
It's great.
Very
Oh,
nice.
Wonderful show. I do enjoy it. Every week they focus on a different animal. They take it to the vet. Alles Gottes Kinderlach. All of God's children should have the same medical care that these animals have. It's unbelievable. If they're seriously ill, for example, Mert, you know Mert. Mert is a 27-year-old goose, and they took him in the van to the Big Shot veterinarian in Manhattan.
The goose specialist.
Yes, yes. And he was amazing. He had a favorite zookeeper, and the zookeeper thought she was a goose, and the goose thought he was a person. So they would walk around together all day, and he'd go, ah, and she would go, ah, and they were really communicating. It's amazing.
Most dogs don't know their dogs.
Storks?
Most dogs don't know their dogs.
What do they think they are?
People.
One of the people.
Oh, my dog knows he's a dog. He said to me, Dave, how long am I going to be a dog? I said, probably the rest of your life. He says, all right, I'm going to take a nap and think about it. Okay, so Moses says, we want you to check out the land. You have to see the inhabitants. Do they live in walled cities? What happens if people live in walled cities?
Can't conquer 'em.
No immigrants?
It was built under a Republican administration. Okay, yes, Stephen.
They're farmers.
Yes, they are farmers. They are one step up from shepherds. Thank you very much. And they live in walled cities for fear. And in many instances, they have found those walled cities, and the walls were like 3 feet thick. So this is no baloney. And that, Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho and the walls came tumbling down. With all due respect, that's a bunch of hooey. So they want to know, are the cities fortified? Do they live in open cities? See, if you live in an open city without a wall, it is a really good neighborhood and probably very expensive that Jews couldn't afford. But the Israelites are going to come sweeping across the River Jordan, and they're going to conquer the land. How many of us believe that? Okay. I know. But actually, what they're going to do is they're going to filter in gradually, and then one day, the Jebusites or the Canaanites or the Girgashites, I know the Girgashites have a very large following in this congregation, will get up and look out the window of their spaciously appointed bedroom and say, oh my God, the Jews are here. There goes the neighborhood. And they'll run away. That's probably what happened, why the Jews were able to take over Canaan. Okay. So they go away and they walk around and they're in the Negev and they're in the Hermon and they're all over the place. And what do they come back with as a souvenir? A bottle of sand, an Israeli girl, or a bunch of grapes. Yes, it is the bunch of grapes. The bunch of grapes is so big.
How
How
big?
big is it? It's so big. It's so big. That was unrehearsed. It's so big that they have to carry it on a stick between them, and that's what becomes the symbol of the Israeli tourist office. Okay? They come back, and Moses says, those are some grapes. let's have some grapes. So they all have grapes. And the spies do this, because they always teach you this in speech class. Start on a positive note. Then you can tear them down. The spies say, it is indeed a goodly land. They actually talk this way. And this is its fruit. But the people who live in the walled cities, the cities go up to the sky, up to heaven, and the people are anakim, they are giants, compared to which we are but grasshoppers. And the people, how do you think the people take this news?
They don't want to go to terrible.
Right, not well. But Kalev ben Yefuneh and Yoshua ben Nun, who are Moses' inheritors respectively, they say, no, you got to listen to God. We will surely be able to conquer the land now that God has promised us. The problem is this: the people cry and God listens to their crying. How does God react to the crying of the people? He's not happy.
Not happy.
He says, you don't trust in me. He says, I'll give it, you're crying without cause, I give you something to cry about. So that's where we get Tisha B'Av. That's where we get the 9th of Av. Isn't that amazing? Mm-hmm. So no matter, the beautiful thing about being Jewish is, no matter what happens, you can always blame yourself. That's why we invented psychology, because we need it. Okay, so, and then the next morning, a bunch of Israelites say, maybe we made a mistake. Maybe God is truly with us. Gird your sword upon your thigh, which is difficult if you're not wearing a belt, and let us sweep over the Jordan and conquer the Canaanites and the Jebusites and the following. By the way, that's 7 tribes in the land of Canaan, and it was there was an archbishop in the Anglican Church. His name will come back to me. But he said the 7 tribes represent the 7 deadly sins. And I had to memorize those for my doctoral orals. Pride, luxury, envy, wrath, avarice, greed, and sloth. Okay? If you haven't had sloth, you really should give it a shot. Because don't ever write off sloth. They cross over the Jordan, and who beats them? Do they win or do they lose?
They win.
They lose. They lose. You're not supposed to make a move unless God says, behold, make a move. Okay? And they blow it. And they lose. And it's really very sad. Oh, by the way, they are routed, it turns out, by the Amalekites. The Amalekites are nothing but trouble. Quick, tell me a holiday involving Hamantashen that involves the Amalekites. Yes, because Haman ben Hamadata, or as we used to call him in Yeshiva, Haman ben Hamadoso, is descended from Agag, who is the king of the Amalekites, and he appears in the Book of Kings, and the Amalekites, okay. This came up my first year in the rabbinate, and I had this Rabbi Emeritus behind me. This was in North Carolina. Who it was like he was going to huff and puff and blow me off the bema. Because he really, every rabbi is like the carnival horse when he hears the band. He thinks he can still do it. But he couldn't do it anymore because he was ill. And he was a survivor of the Holocaust. And one good drash explanation that he gave me was this. He said, Amalek is not always an external enemy. Amalek is inside of us. Everybody has a good side and an evil side. And it's like there was a poem, I think there's a reggae song, They Feed They Lion. When you get angry at people, when you go around with a chip on your shoulder, you are feeding your lion. So that was another explanation of this idea of Amalek. It goes on, it finishes up, they talk about the menachot. See, not all the offerings were animal offerings. This is the vegetarian portion of the temple service. It's not the temple yet, it's the sanctuary. They give meal, wine, and oil, and they are supposed to combine them. What happens when you combine meal, wine, and oil?
Yuck.
Yes, exactly. Very true. I don't know what they did with it. It's possible that the priest and the Levites ate them. And the mitzvah, this is it. The challah. Is the challah a reference to the loaf or something else?
Something else.
Something else.
Something else. Very good. When a woman bakes a challah, or a man, they are supposed to tear off a portion of dough and burn it in the oven, which represents two things. Number one, it really smells up the apartment. And number two, it represents the korban challah. It's a challah offering. It's the offering of this little piece of bread that you're giving back to God by burning it in the oven. I knew this guy, Dave Libor. He was a British Jew, and I'm not being racist or anything, but you cannot tell a British Jew anything. They are right. If you are British and Orthodox, it becomes very frightening to sit next to you at lunch, because he would always take a portion of his food, whether it was the peas and carrots and gravy or the mystery meat. Nobody knew where it came from. This is the cafeteria at Bar Ilan University. And he would separate a portion of the peas and carrots, and that was devoted to God. In the end, who ate the peas and carrots?
No one.
No one. It would go into the trash. Okay? And finally, the thing winds up by talking about the tzitzit. The true badge of Israel is not the kippah or the yarmulke. That is a minhag. That is a custom that somehow became hardened into law. The tzitzit are truly the badge of Israel. I remember the year I spent in Israel, the Av Habayit, the house daddy, his name was David, what a surprise, like mine. And he would take a tank top, he would cut it up the side and attach the tzitzit to that, so that he could keep cool and still wear the tzitzit. All right, thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom. That is Shalach. It's not bad, Shalach. It's kind of, human drama and all that. And I'm going to fetch the cantor, or I can lead you in the Shalom Aleichem, or I can just stand here and juggle. Okay, please stand by.
Yoo-hoo.
He
Yoo-hoo.
ran away. He heard the story.
My Hebrew professor in rabbinical school used to say, Yagata Matzata. He was Dr. Gia, he was Yemenite. Yagata Matzata. Come on, everybody. Yagata Matzata.
Isn't that the Lion King?
That look like
It meant, seek and ye shall find. Okay? Or you sought and you found.
Sounds like the same.
Yeah.
It's a Jewish lion. Come on, Sherry.
Yes, let us do the candles. Would you ladies like to light the Shabbat candles? You just have to strike a match, really. After that, we're in free fall. Okay. All right, all the ladies, come on over here, please.
Oops, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good to see you.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. That's great. Oh, terrific. Who's around? Oh, yes. I didn't know it.
Ladies, don't be bashful. Don't be bashful, go.
Okay, we wave our hands over the candles, we cover our eyes and sing the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai,
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ne'er shel Shabbat. Amen.
Asher kiddushanu
B'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ne'er, v'tzivanu hadlik ne'er, v'tzivanu lehadlik ne'er shel Shabbat. Amen.
Let's turn to the person next to you and wish them good Shabbos. Thank you so much.
Good Shabbos, Al. Good Shabbos, honey. Good Shabbos, honey. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos, Al. Thank you, honey. Good Shabbos, Lima.
Shalom.
ומבורך.
Shabbat.
Shalom.
Donna, open it up. Sorry.
Shabbat Shalom ומבורך. 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 Shabbat Shalom ומבורך.
All right, having begun the service, we'll now begin the service. Page 13.
Shalom Aleichem Malachei Hashalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Melech Elohim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Malachei Shalom Malachei Hashalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malachei Elohim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom, Shalom, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Sefer Shalom Elokei Shalom Elokei Elyon Melech Melech Elokei HaKadosh Baruch Hu According to this song, I wouldn't like to be an angel.
Okay.
Because, you know, they say Shalom Aleichem, they say
Yes.
hello, 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 Baruch Boachem, welcome, welcome.
Yeah.
Then is bless you, bless you. Then is no bless you, bless welcome, welcome, come here. Then Barhuni, let's be blessed and let's be blessed, and then go away. Nothing to eat in the
But angels don't eat.
Angels
Yeah,
don't
this
eat
is
food.
why I would like to be an angel. Because here, for me, at least it's first course, second course,
Yes.
something there, and then
Yes.
Tzedekah. Yeah, but that's it.
When,
So-
when Abraham entertained the angels and he fed them milchiks and fleishiks together, they said, "Oh, look over there."
Okay, page number 14. Page 15. Arba'in shana kuhud vedore va'omar hametoele v'havim mem lo yadu derachai asher nishvati ve'abi im yevor el menuchati.
Page 21, L'chadodi.
Lechadodi
Lekakala, B'nei Shabbat, Lekakala, Lechadodi, Lekakala, B'nei Shabbat, Lekakala. Lekadodi, Dodi, Lechadodi, Lekakala, B'nei Shabbat, Lekakala. Lechadodi, Lekakala. B'nei Shabbat Lekakala.
Shamor v'sachor v'limur echad v'sheyanu v'lamayukad
Adonai Echad v'Shemo Echad v'Shoni v'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'V'Dodi Echad Dodi Lekakala. B'nei Shabbat Lekakala. Lechadodi Lekakala. B'nei Shabbat Lekakala.
Likrat Shabbat techu v'necha Himekor habracha Erosh mikedem nesucha Sof ma'aseh v'machshavat tikva.
Lechadodi Lekakala. B'nei Shabbat Lekakala. Lechadodi Lekakala. B'nei Shabbat Lekakala.
Page 22, please rise. Fourth stanza, face the door through which the Sabbath queen will enter.
Oime shalom erev malach Gam b'simcha u'b'sola U'kemunei am zegula Oim alav u'im alav
Lechadodi Lechadodi Lekakala. B'nei Shabbat Lekakala. Lechadodi Lekakala. B'nei Shabbat Lekakala.
All right, we'll continue now with the Baruch
28.
page 28. We'll ask our dear friend Joel and his family to honor us by opening the ark. Oh, you have to fold it over. And the curtains. We bow towards the ark.
Hallelujah. Adonai Amonah, Leolam Vaed.
And the curtain is closed, and the doors remain open. Please be seated.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidbaro mani baramim בחוכמה פותח שערים ובתבונה משנה עתים ומחנים את הזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו בורא יום בלילה גולל אור מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המעריף הרבים.
Page 29.
אמת עולם בית ישראל אהבת תורה ומצוות חוקים משפטים אותנו למענך על כן אדוני אלוהינו ושפטנו ותקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו באורך ימינו ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה ועבדך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל.
Page 30, we have the Shema. Let's cover our eyes to show God cannot be seen. Shema
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Uncover the eyes.
Baruch Shem Kod Nahuto Leolam Vaed.
Read the English paragraph. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart,
With all your soul, with all your might. And these words which I command you on this day, take to the heart. Teach them diligently to your children, and recite them at home and way, night and day. Bind them as a sign upon your hand, and as a reminder above your eyes. Inscribe them upon the doorposts of your homes and upon your gates.
Please read silently from the bottom of page 30 to the end of the top paragraph on 31.
Adonai Elohim Emet
Page 32.
Emet ve'emuna kol sod v'kaya v'aleinu Yu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ine zulato v'anachnu Yisrael Amo.
32.
In the middle. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ובני ישראל לכהנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך מלך אדוני מי כמוך נהדר בקודש נורא תהילות אוספת מלכותך ראו עליך בוקע ים לבני משה גזר ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גד ישראל.
Amen.
On page 33, we think about the folks we know in need of healing. Ruth Gale, I spoke with her this past week. She is now home. Howard E. Lackman, we pray for his recovery. And of course, our dear friend Laura Durant. Okay, let's go round and people can name names. Okay.
Charles Sandner.
Before Schlegel. Okay. Oh, this is a good week.
No.
Yes, Toby.
Nancy Austin, Todd Austin, Susan Hurley Afifi, Lauren Maurer, Lucy Shapiro.
Thank you. Yes. Jason.
Michelle J. Gomez,
For Schleimer.
Gary D'Ambrosio,
For Schleimer.
Diane Nix,
For
and
Schleimer.
James Bowman.
For Schleimer.
Joe and Judy Kosnitz, Arlene Ball.
For Schleimer.
Esther Newhouse.
For Schleimer.
Pearl Petch,
For Schleimer.
Bruce Martin,
For Schleimer.
Heidi Dennis,
For Schleimer.
Lillian David,
For Schleimer.
and Sue Oshinsky.
For Schleimer.
James Bass-Magian,
For Schleimer.
and Tim Ross,
For Schleimer.
and Paul Klein.
For Schleimer. Okay. All right, let's read together the top left-hand paragraph on page 3. Help us, Adonai, to lie down in peace, and awaken us again, our sovereign, to life. Spread over us your shelter of peace. Guide us with your good counsel. Save us because of your mercy. Shield us from enemies and pestilence, from starvation, sword, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, O God, who watches over us and delivers us, our gracious and merciful ruler. Guard our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace now and always. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Praise to you, Adonai, who spreads the shelter of peace over us, over all his people Israel, over Jerusalem and the entire world. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim, v'al kol haolam kulo. Amen. 34, the Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת,
לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
ואני אומר בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Please rise, have Kaddish, bottom of 34.
יגאל ויתקדש שם רבה.
Amen.
ויעלמה דברה כילותי וימליך מלכותי. לך יקדש Vaser, Veitadar, Veitale, Veitahalal, Shveu Neshar, Leila min kol birchata v'shinata, Tushvechata v'nechemata, Tamia v'ana.
Shalom, Shalom Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, V'Yakol Yisrael, V'Yakol Yoshvei Tevet. Oseh Shalom, Shalom Ibrova, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, V'Yakol Yisrael, V'Yakol Yoshvei Tevet.
All right, the full Kaddish, page 48.
Yitgadal, Yitgadal, Shemei Rabban, בעלמא תברח חילותי וימליך מלכותי וחייכון וביום ואכון ובחיי לאכול בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו
אמן.
יש מרבה ומורה בעולם ובעולמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהלל 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 שוויני קודשם לילך כל כתב ושירתה ושפתה וחמתה למירה ועלמה ושפתה וחמתה למירה ועלמה ואמרו תתקבל אצלו תורתו לכל ישראל קדם בבור דיבי גשמיא קדם בבור דיבי גשמיא ואמרו יש להם הרמב"ם משמעיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו
All right, now is the Kiddush, page 49. As the Kiddush Macharon give out the wine. You may rise, please.
Yeah, oh, thanks.
It's not wine? Yeah, juice, wine.
Wine.
Just learning. Wine.
For the wine.
Shabbat Kosheka Yahweh Ubrason Inkatanu Baruch Adonai Mekadesh
All right, page 51 is the Aleinu. Stephen, Arnold, do you want to by opening the order, please?
Did he call us? Yeah, Stephen. Oh, I didn't see it.
Aleinu לשבח אדון הכל, לתת גדולה יוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו לפני הרצון, ולא שמענו משפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, ולא עלינו ככל עמוניו, אנחנו קוראים ובחכמים ובונים ובמלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נותן שמיים ויוצר הארץ ובושר יקרו השמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו Le'ovei meromim, u'eloheinu Elot, Eloheinu efesulato, kachatu betolato, Yom yadata yom hashivota elevavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim hashamayim v'imad ya'aretz mitzrach kadeinu Elod
All right, as the ark is closed, if you're not saying Kaddish, you may be seated. Otherwise, the Kaddish is on page 52. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, amen. Yalmad yibrach yerutei v'yamliach malchutei. V'chayechon v'yimechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. Agala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach li'olam ulneil mayar. Yiporach v'yishtabach v'yipoar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei t'kudesha b'richu. Li'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Ta'miran v'yalma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim oleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Uyaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, amen. Please be seated. On a personal note, I do want to thank any congregants who wished us condolences on the tragic passing of our niece, of blessed memory, Jill Heather Levy Morris. The funeral was Sunday, 12:15. I know that the chapel is Beth Israel Chapel in Boynton Beach. I don't quite remember the name of the... Oh, she was only 46. All right. At this time, we'll hear a few cheerier announcements by our beloved president.
There are many happy things that I want to tell you about, but first I want to say to you what it means to be in community here at Temple for me and for all of you. I know you feel the same way. It's very wonderful to celebrate happy times and all the events that we have here in our beautiful synagogue. But when we need to remember, being in community is very important as well. And tonight we're very privileged to have the Zentner family here to remember Buddy, who I remember so well. We have the Lubar family here to remember their Joel's wife, Sandy's mother, Nora's grandmother, and my darling friend Judith. We are remembering and thinking of the loss of Rabbi and Beth's niece, and it's important that we're together for these remembrances, for all of the cycles of life. And I'm privileged to be president of the shul, and I'm privileged to be here with all of you to celebrate these lives that were so meaningful to all of us and of course to you. Today we're also celebrating, I don't need this, do
Your voice is.
it's okay. We're also celebrating a brand new member to Temple Shalom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Welcome.
so very, very much. And welcome with a full heart.
Thank you.
I won't go through all of the events that are coming up, but next Friday night, the 5th of July, we're celebrating the 4th of July. So before Shabbos services at 6, I know it says 6:15, I think, in the bulletin, but at 6 o'clock, come, we're going to have a 4th of July picnic in our social hall. We're going to do the whole 4th of July thing, hot dogs, veggie burgers for our vegetarians. Yes, we remember, we thought about it this time. And we're just going to celebrate, our beautiful country and how privileged we are to live in America. Really, we're so very fortunate. We have many things planned for you. Come to the morning minions if you can, 8:45, Monday and Thursday morning. Tomorrow, Rabbi will not be with us because they need to be with the family of beautiful Jill tomorrow. So Rabbi won't have his class tomorrow, but he will be having his class in Modern Hebrew and Current Events next Wednesday. And your Cantor Surprise class, that hasn't happened yet. It's happening, it's going to happen, it's happening. And just check the bulletin, July 11th, Dr. Murray Lichtenstein is doing his series on the Dead Sea Scrolls, and on July 11th, 18th, and 25th, and that'll be at 7 o'clock in the evening on 3 Thursday evenings. We have a lot planned for you, and but drink in our sense of community. Know that you are never alone. We're always together in the best of times and in the worst of times, in happy and in sad. And when we need each other, we're here for each other. I send love to all of you who are watching at home. The doors are open, our hearts are open, our arms are open. Please, if you can, come and be with us. And a sweet Shabbos to everyone.
Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rita, and we will now
Finish our service, conclude with Adon Olam.
do we ever really conclude?
No, we're not going to conclude because one thing,
Page 54 is the Adon
we're
Olam.
going on after. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem kol Yitzir Nivra, Igual ויעדו עד כדרוכי ותשאל והעירה ויברוכי למיעתי אדוני לי אדוני לי ולא יירא el trazado ejemplo corazón me leccionónica peacare que corta con elevador y ignora tu vaya bebuo bebe uy eretica adorno la machamala meter en corriente su librade la sabe que se corazón me leccionónica peacare que corta con elevador y ignora bebu vaya bebu be betifara bebu vaya bebu be betifara. Please rise for the closing benediction. Yevarechecha Adonai meishmerecha.
Lord bless you and keep you.
Geir Adonai panaverecha vichunecha.
Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you.
Isa Adonai panaverecha veyasem lecha shalom.
The Lord turn his face unto you and grant you peace. We'll say Amen.
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 Good Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbat
Good Shabbos.
Thank you very much.
Shabbos, Toby.